Hello, Year 5. I was just thinking that when I look back at these videos that I've made, when I think about, is it the beginning or is it the end of lockdown? I will know because of the length of my hair. It is growing longer and longer and longer. Look at that. It's right down to here now. I usually have it up here. It's grown all of that. Anyway, it's Thursday today, and we are it's Thursday the 28th of January, and I'm going to talk to you about your guided reading and a bit about your spelling as well, so that you know exactly what to do today. Now, in your guided reading, I'm going to read to you chapter 8, and then I've put a few questions on the timetable sheet, and I'm going to talk to you about those questions at the end of me reading this chapter to you, so that you stand a good chance of writing some fabulous answers to those questions. Okay, so as you know, when I'm reading, the glasses come out. So I'm going to put my glasses on. Here we go. And so Jeff's been to see the counsellor, and he got on very well with her. And he talked about Bradley and his friendship with Bradley. And she'd said that he should just give it a go, and that you didn't need to agree with someone to be friends with them. Okay, so now they're back in class. This is chapter 8, back in class. Mrs. Ebel was teaching geography. Everybody in the class had a map of the United States on his or her desk. Remember, this was written by Louis Sachar, who is American. So it's set in America, not in England. That's why it talks about the president, because in America they have a president. It's been Donald Trump, but now he's just left. And the capital of America is Washington, D.C. Okay, and that's where the White House is, where the president lives. Okay, the new president is called Joe Biden. Okay, so if you spot that name, that's the president of the United States of America. Okay, so they've all got a map of United States on their table. Bradley's map was different from all the others. California was above Wisconsin. Florida stuck out of Texas. He picked up a pair of his scissors and carefully cut out Tennessee. He was a good cutter. The edge of his scissors never left the black line. He wondered what was happening to Jeff. He knew he was at the counselor's office. He imagined she was doing all kinds of horrible things to him. He tried to tell Jeff at recess not to go and see her. He taped Tennessee to Washington. He was a very messy taper. His piece of tape twisted and stuck to itself. He looked up as Jeff entered the room and watched him hang his hall pass on the hook behind Mrs. Ebel's desk. Then he looked away as Jeff headed to the seat next to him. When the bell rang for lunch, he shoved his map into his desk and pulled out his paper sack. Because of the rain, everyone had to eat inside, in the auditorium. He and Jeff walked there together. Sort of. He's walking next to me, Bradley thought, but I'm not walking next to him. The auditorium, which is like a big hall, was hot, steamy, and noisy. Long tables with benches had been set up across the room. Where do you want to sit? Asked Jeff. Bradley ignored him. He stood on his tiptoes and looked around, as if he was trying to locate his real friends. Jeff walked away and sat at one of the tables. Bradley walked behind where Jeff was sitting. I think I'll sit here, he said aloud, as if he didn't know Jeff was there. He stepped over the bench and sat next to Jeff. Hi, said Jeff. Bradley faced him for the first time. Oh, it's you, he said. They ate their lunches. What are you eating? Asked Jeff. Peanut butter sandwich, said Bradley. As he spoke, bits of peanut butter and bread flew out of his mouth. What about you? Tuna fish, said Jeff. Bradley swallowed his food and said, I hate tuna fish. My mother makes it good, said Jeff. She chops apples into it. I hate apples, said Bradley. He sucked the last drop of milk through his straw, then continued to suck, making a gurgling noise. Sitting two tables away from Jeff and Bradley were three girls, Melinda Birch, Laurie Weston, and Colleen Verigold. They were talking and laughing about something funny that had happened to Colleen that morning. Colleen, who had red hair and a freckled face, covered her mouth with her hand. There he is, she whispered. It's him. Where? Asked Laurie. Don't look at him, said Colleen. He's right there, sitting next to Bradley Chalkers. Bradley Chalkers, said Laurie. I think I'm going to throw up. Don't look, whispered Colleen. Bradley stopped sucking on his straw. What did the counsellor do to you? He asked. Jeff shrugged. Nothing. Did she yell a lot? Was she mean and ugly? No, she was nice. I think you'll like her. Me? Asked Bradley. I'm not going to see her. I didn't do anything wrong. She's good at helping you solve your problems, said Jeff. I don't have any problems, said Bradley. He bit ferociously into a red, delicious apple. I thought you said you hated apples, said Jeff. Bradley shoved the apple back inside the paper sack. That wasn't an apple, he said. It was a banana. Jeff's face suddenly changed colour, first white and then bright red. Oh, I think he sees you, said Melinda. Laurie laughed. Colleen blushed. Come on, said Laurie. Let's go talk to him. She stood up. Laurie Weston was a short, skinny girl with long, straight black hair. Melinda got up from the table too. She was nearly twice the size of Laurie. She had short brown hair. No, don't go, pleaded Colleen. What's the matter? Asked Bradley. Nothing, said Jeff. So, did I miss anything in class? No, Mrs. Ebel gave everybody a map. I got one. Don't lose it, said Bradley. Mrs. Ebel wants them back. Two girls were giggling behind them. Jeff and Bradley turned round. Colleen thinks you're cute, said Laurie. Jeff blushed. Who? He asked. The girls laughed. What's your name? Asked Melinda. Jeff blushed again. Colleen wants to know, said Laurie. Then she and Melinda laughed again. He doesn't have a name, said Bradley, coming to Jeff's rescue. He hated Laurie. She had the biggest mouth in the whole school. She was always laughing too. He could hear her laugh from one end of the school to the other. Ew, Bradley Chalkers, said Laurie, holding her nose. Laurie Loudmouth, said Bradley. We're not talking to you, Bradley, said Melinda. Get out of here or I'll punch your face in, he replied. You wouldn't hit a girl, said Melinda. That's what you think, he shook his fist. Melinda and Laurie backed away. We only wanted to know his name, said Melinda. And what he was doing in the girls' bathroom, screeched Laurie. The two girls laughed and ran back to Colleen. Bradley slowly turned and looked at Jeff, amazed. Jeff sat with his head on the table and his arms over his head. You went in the girls' bathroom? Bradley asked. So what? Said Jeff under his elbow. Carla says, Me too, declared Bradley. I go in all the time. I like to make them scream. He smiled at Jeff. Okay, so there you go. The next thing, there's a bit of romance going on there. I think Colleen quite likes Jeff, but they don't like Bradley, do they? Now then, let's have a look at our work for today. Okay, so I know I usually do this in our briefing, but I thought it might be easier like this. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to have a look at our timetable for learning. And here we go. So it's Thursday, the 28th of January, and you're very lucky you've got a little picture of Attia's Bridge there. Okay, so our guided reading. So I've just read chapter 8 to you here, and now I've got 2 questions which are retrieval questions, and that means that I want you to look for something in the book. You don't have the book, so you're going to have to either go back and listen to this again, or you're going to have a very good memory. So what was Mrs. Ebble teaching? What subject was Mrs. Ebble teaching? And okay, the next one, why did everyone have to eat inside? Now think about when we have to eat inside. Well, we always eat inside, don't we? But when do we have to stay inside all dinner time? That's unusual, isn't it? So think about that when you're answering that question. Now then, why had the girls gone over to speak to Jeff? Why was that? I think there's 2 reasons for that, because I think they were being a little bit cruel to him because they knew that something had happened to him. I wonder if you can remember what it was that had happened to Jeff, that Jeff was really embarrassed about. And also they said to Jeff that they wanted to know something about him because Colleen liked him. So what was it they wanted to know about him? Now the next one gives you the sentence, so you don't have to remember it. It says, read this sentence. Bradley Chalkers, said Laurie, I think I'm gonna throw up. What does that tell you about how Laurie feels about Bradley? And I want to use P-E-E. So first of all, make your point. Write down what you think that sentence tells you about how Laurie feels about Bradley. And then secondly, the evidence is there. It's part of that sentence. It's maybe 3 or 4 words in that sentence that tell you how she feels about him. And then thirdly, explain the evidence. Why did you pick that part of the sentence to explain how she feels? Okay, so that's P-E-E, point, evidence. Sorry, point, evidence, and explain. Okay, now I'm just going to go through your spelling because it's here, it's underneath. Okay, so we're using the prefix, which is a bit that adds on to the beginning of a word. Remember, a suffix is added on to the end of a word. A prefix is at the beginning, and our prefix is inter. Okay, and we said that inter meant between. Okay, between some 2 things. And so let's have a look. It tells you to try and find the meaning that matches the word. These are not in the right order. But if you have a look down here, one of these words is internet. And you know what the internet is. We're using it now. It's the worldwide computer system. So you can write internet, and then next to it, you can write the word worldwide computer system. Okay, now I'd have cut these into cards. That's why it says word cards there. I'd have cut them into cards if we were in school, but you're going to have to just do a little bit of matching up, write the word and then write the meaning. Okay, if you score 4 out of 6, then I'll give you dojos. Okay, if you get 4, 5, or 6 out of 6, I will give you dojos. Okay, if you find that really, really difficult and you're finding you can't do it, then I've given you a second choice of activity. What I want you to do is make a video of yourself. Now, you don't have to do both these activities. Make a video of yourself reading out just this column of words. I want you to try and read them out. And if you're not sure what they sound like, go onto Word Hippo, type the word in, and then press the little speaker icon, and it will read it to you. Okay, and then I want you to video yourself, do a bit of a selfie video of you reading these words. Best thing to do is to read them to somebody at home, or even read them to the mirror first, but reading them to somebody else is the best way. Get them to say, yeah, that's great, and then read them to me. And again, if you read them really nicely, you get your dojos. Okay, thank you very much. Let's stop the sharing, and there we go. Okay, I'm off the top of the screen. Okay, thank you for doing your guided reading so carefully. Remember, you can watch the video again as many times as you like to help yourself. Okay, goodbye.